It's my pleasure to begin the presentation of the APS Awards. And what we're giving this afternoon is the Jacques Barzan Prize in Cultural History, which was established in 1993 by a former student of Professor Barzan's. The prize is awarded annually to the author whose book exhibits distinguished work in American or European cultural history. And Michael Wood, this picture I see up on my screen, the chair of the prize selection committee, will present both the 2020 and the 2021 Jacques Barzan Prize.
It's a great pleasure to do this, and a little strange to be doing two things at once, but still, we are catching up, we hope. The recipient of the 2020 Jacques Barzan Prize in Cultural History is Francesca Trivellato, Andrew Mellon Professor at the Institute for Advanced Study, for her book, The Promise and Peril of Credit, What a Forgotten Legend About Jews and Finance Tells Us About the Making of European Commercial Society. This remarkable book, quote, examines key episodes in the West's millennium-long struggle to delineate the place that finance ought to occupy in the social and political order, close quote. It centers, as its title says, on the idea of credit, a word that suggests and requires faith, but also makes people worry about whom to trust. The book begins with a 2002 quotation from Warren Buffett, and moves back to a close study of important earlier documents before returning to the present day. It tells a story of financial facts, but also of unshakable fantasies, all of them involving a supposed special relation between Jews and money. The legend is either understood as a tribute to their ingenuity, or a lot more frequently as a sign of how manipulative they are. The, quote, anxieties created by Jews, potential invisibility in the marketplace, we learn, quote, could be mapped onto the increasing abstraction of the paper economy, allowing the legend, quote, to bring to the fore the misgivings that went hand in hand with the rise of capitalism and formal equality as pillars of European modernity. They could be so mapped, and they were. The Promise and Peril of Credit makes a very strong case for studying historical fantasies alongside historical facts. Origin stories, Professor Civilizing writes, continue to fascinate historians, anthropologists, and literary critics, less for the veracity of their content than for what they tell us about shared beliefs of societies different from ours, what we've just been hearing about. This claim is all the more powerful, we may think, when the content has no veracity, and the society in question is perhaps not as different from ours as we would like to think. It is my great pleasure to present the 2020 Jacques Barzan Prize in Cultural History to Francesca Trivellato.
Well, thank you very much. It's not easy for me to convey how honored and grateful and humble I am by this particular prize, first and foremost because of the deep admiration I have for Professor Michael Wood and the other two members of the Book Prize Committee, Professor Hollinger and Professor Pepin. But I should also say that it's a more personal note that I want to stress the sense of complete surprise that was genuine when I was given the happy note, and some sense of, admittedly, of deep gratitude and some satisfaction, because I have it's a prize in cultural history, which is not a field in which I have ever received any formal training. But my hope with this book, as Professor Wood said so generously and elegantly, is to put fantasies, including troubling and dark fantasies, alongside facts, and therefore to engender a more productive intellectual exchange between economic historians and cultural historians in a moment like ours, in which in the academic landscape, certain kind of fractures between social historians on the one hand and intellectual and cultural historians on the others are not longer as poignant as they used to be. And at the same time, the interest for all things economic are pervasive and resurgent. And exactly how we return to do economic history, I think is not clear to some at least. And I've been doing that for a long time, but I think we are in need of some rejuvenation of how we do economic history now that everybody's interested in these topics. So I couldn't be more honored by receiving a prize in cultural history. Thank you very much.
The recipient of the 2021 Jacques Barzan Prize in Cultural History is Paul Betts, Professor of Modern History at St Antony's College at the University of Oxford, in recognition of his book, Ruin and Renewal, Civilizing Europe After World War II. Is the concept of civilization a grand illusion or an indispensable part of historical and political thinking? Professor Betts' book offers interesting answers to this question, also explores what it means even to ask it. He looks at the modern workings of what he calls this old, troublesome, and much maligned principle, and suggests that, I quote now, a preoccupation with the fate of civilization is less the product of peace and prosperity than the result of rupture, vulnerability, and the drive for reform. After World War II, Professor Betts says, the, quote, contest for civilization inspired a mixed crowd of advocates on both sides of the Iron Curtain. A new specter is haunting Europe, he says, quoting Framer's phrase, but it's not communism, and it is haunting other places too. It is whatever mixture of racism, reaction, and privilege Winston Churchill was evoking when in 1947 he said, quote, the real demarcation between Europe and Asia is a system of beliefs and ideas which we call Western civilization. Fortunately, civilization has other meanings, and Professor Betts tracks a large number of them through different consecutive contexts. Certain key figures and events emerge: the Nuremberg trials, the Geneva Convention, the Algerian War, the cultural work of UNESCO, Cardinal Vincenti, Leopold Senghor, Pope John Paul II, Mikhail Gorbachev. Professor Betts says the meeting of the last two persons in 1989 was, quote, perhaps the most dramatic episode that indicated the changing shape of European politics. And through it all, quote again, the bruised concept of civilization survives, even if its meanings often contradict each other. Ruin and Renewal is not a comfortable book, but it is a constant provocation to thought. It's my great pleasure to present the 2021 Jacques Barzan Prize in Cultural History to Paul Betts, joining us from the UK.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Let me express my enormous gratitude to the APS and the prize selection committee for the Barzan Book Prize. And I'm also grateful for the beautiful prize certificate that was sent to me here in the UK from Philadelphia. Thank you very much to Michael Wood for those actually very, very perceptive and kind words about the book. It had a very long gestation. It was a challenging book to write, and I'm very pleased that the committee found the book of some value. I should say this is doubly honoring for me in that to receive the Barzun Prize. I never had the privilege of meeting Jacques Barzun, but his book, Darwin, Marx, and Wagner, was a touchstone book for me as an undergraduate many, many years ago. Partly that book that motivated me to pursue a master's degree in international history University of Chicago many, many years ago. But that book was actually quite a formative one for me in my early thinking and development about how people can blend intellectual and politics. Let me just quickly, if I may, I just want to thank my publishers. I want to thank the team at Profile Books in the UK, the Basic Books in New York, my agent, Catherine Clark, and a number of people helped me along the way, of course, most of all, and friends. Without support, any of this would have been possible. But I'm hugely, hugely honored by the award. To me, it's the something I've been following very closely over the years, and it was a long road to get there with Kate. So thank you very much to you.
Okay, congratulations to both of our award recipients.